Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, the master of the deceptive arts, and I return to you one more as the unbound voice of the Vasectomites. And today I wanted us to talk about the end of empires and why empires actually fall and why they actually end. And while I was thinking about this, the issue of empires falling and collapsing, and we've seen a lot of them, fall. And there are some empires that are collapsing right in front of our eyes, whether you know it or not. But I asked myself a very curious question. I said to myself, what happens to the survivors of these empires? Did they all vanish along with the end of the empire? Did they end along with the end of the era? And for the most part, I found that for many of the survivors of these fallen empires, they just continued as normal. The only real significant change in the fall of empires is the change of leadership. It's the people that are running the empire that change and move on. But for many of these empires, they're still there. Many of these empires are actually still there, or at least the physical space that they used to occupy is still there and is still occupied by many of the descendants of the people that were part of that fallen empire. When you look at places like Rome, which is in Italy right now, the same land where Emperor Augustus, Julius Caesar, Marcus Aurelius, the same places where they walked and pranced about up and down, those same places still exist. They still exist. They are still there. There are places where you can go to and they'll tell you Machiavelli lived on the street, or the Da Vinci, they funded the building of that monument. Of course, it's been maintained and done up over the years with certain modern fixings and fixtures, and modern elements. But they'll tell you that the Medici, they funded that that project 400-500 years ago, and many of those projects still remain. And so do the heirs of these ancestors, the people who survived, right? The empire, they are still there, as are the buildings, as are most other things other than, the leadership. When you look at the research and the studies done on fallen empires, they always cite the same causes, as the same cause of the fall of that empire, right? And it's always something like an invasion or a war of some kind, right? So what they'll say is, for instance, the collapse of Rome was brought about by the invasion of the barbarians from the north, which nothing could be further from the truth. They'll also say that, oh, there was a tremendous economic meltdown, an economic collapse of some kind. Also, not necessarily the case. Yes, economics plays a part in it. Yes, wars and invasions, they play a part of that. But people survive wars. So, for instance, if you look at places where conflict took place in the World War, people still live in the same places where war took place. And those people are the descendants and heirs of ancestors who were part of that war and that conflict. So there were survivors who, once the war ended, once the war ended, they were still there. Once the invasion ended, they were still there. You know, once the powers that be were removed, the regular people, they were still there. They were still going to work, living their lives, doing their shopping, looking after their kids, paying for school fees, bending the knee, most of them. And it still all continued as normal. Others claim that there was a disease of some kind, some pandemic that wiped out entire civilizations. And sure, that may be true, but then there were people that survived those pandemics also. And what happened to those people? What happened to all those people that survived the pandemics, or even the collapse of morality, right? There are those who say that some diseases are not just of the flesh, but those diseases are also of the spirit, and theologians will always blame the fall of an empire, the fall of a dynasty, the end of an era, to some type of loss of morality or lack of morality, that had a domino effect and caused societal downfall and a societal collapse, and ultimately the end of the empire. But none of that is true. Not a single one of these is true, nor do they make sense. None of these make sense. So the Roman army, for instance, was the greatest army at the time known to humanity. And for barbarians to run in and take over the Roman Empire, the only way that could have been is if the army just didn't stop them. Because if the army had stood there and the barbarians saw the army, they weren't going to engage. There's no way you were going to engage the Roman army. So they came in and found that there was really no army there. So where was the army? The same is true with economics. You look at the world right now. Look at your house. Look at the home that you live in. Look at all the things in your house and count the things that are for free. If you came in to a furnished apartment or a furnished hotel, I assure you everything in that room, in that apartment was paid for by somebody else. But if you came into an empty apartment as I did, or into an empty house as I did, everything that you see in that house that makes that house livable was paid for. And more things still need to be paid for. Some things get old, some things break, clothes tear, things get updated, things get improved, and so forth, right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about updating and improving you. You know, all these things All these things are necessary and they cost money. So as long as there's somebody to manufacture these things, there'll be somebody to buy and purchase them, right? And the economic cycle will continue. So how can, in a world where people demand economics in terms of getting the things that they need and the money to buy the things that they need, economics is always in demand, always in demand, right? So it wasn't the collapse of the economy, nor was it disease and that kind of thing, nor was it morality. The truth is that, right? And by the way, you know, the fact that there are people that survived and people that continued and people and their descendants are still living in those areas is an indication that something else was going on other than military, economics, or moral issues, or even legal issues. And I'll tell you what that is. The truth is that empires collapse because of evolution and change. And not change like in strength or power or even the change in like a vasectomy, which is what we talk about all the time in this program, right? You're going to freeze your sperm, you're going to get a vasectomy, and then you're going to evolve into a vasectomite. No, 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 no. Yes, that might play an important part in our own evolution, but we're talking about a different kind of change, not a change or evolution in strength or power or economics or even morality, but a simple change in priorities. Empires collapse because the generation of people who built the empire, who grew the empire, who sustained and maintained the empire, who maintained the prestige, the morality, the laws of the empire, the economics of the empire, they all grew old. They all grew old, and eventually their time came and they retired, and some sadly passed away in the process. And all the while, they were talking about how important the empire is and how powerful the empire is and how we should be grateful to have the empire on our side. All the while this is happening, the next generation couldn't care less. The last thing they want to hear about is how much they owe the empire because they've been hearing it every single day of their lives since the day they were born, and they are sick of it. And they are absolutely sick of it. And they have absolutely no interest in maintaining an empire that many of them felt has quite frankly prevented them from doing what they wanted to do or express themselves in a way that they felt was appropriate, even if that was inappropriate. You know, young people always want to rebel against what the previous generation is doing. And it's not because there's something wrong with that, it's just because they don't find the same value in the things that you are doing that they do. Yes, there are certain things that will stand the test of time, like, save your money, exercise, eat healthy, sleep on time, avoid illicit substances, stay away from unscrupulous people, go to safe places, secure your own safety, that kind of thing. These things will always be true. These things will always be sensible, right? But there are other things, trends and so forth, that are fleeting and that are changing. Right? And then comes a generation of people who have no interest in that trend or that music or that kind of lifestyle. So there were people for whom out of town trips was a big deal. And then comes a generation, they don't want to go out of town. They've already been out of town. They want to go overseas. So their priorities, so when you start talking about all the things you want to do on a road trip. Are you going to pack a bag and bring a mat for the picnic and so forth so they can sit in the middle of the field in the sun where there's no Wi-Fi, and burn, you know what I mean? And there's no umbrella or whatever, or even if you're sitting under a tree because the sun is moving, you're gonna have to keep moving. So you're not just moving yourself, you have to move all the food, all the stuff, and things are gonna spill, things are gonna fall over. Picnics are a terrible idea. I don't know who ever came up with picnics, right? But while you're trying to maintain picnic culture and out of town trips, there's a generation of people who want to hit the beachfront resorts. They want to stay in the penthouse suites with the room service. They want to go on the catamaran and the jet skis, right? They want to do the quad bikes. They want to go see the waterfalls. They want the sunset. They want all that. So what you're offering them in terms of quality and lifestyle, they reject, right? They really don't want it, right? They really don't want it. They don't want to maintain the status quo. So they don't work to maintain the social structure. They're not going to put in the effort to maintain the economics, the infrastructure. They're not going to fight for laws that they didn't write and to sustain those laws. And thus begins the long and slow decline of one empire. Really, it's not so much a decline as it is a transition, right? A similar fate happens to trends. Some something that was trending for young people 10 or 15 years ago has now aged along with those people, right? So if there was something that was really popular and cool, say in 2010, that is completely outdated, right? And that's not because people aren't using that technology, that mechanism, people aren't watching the programming, or people aren't participating in those activities. It's just that those people are now older, and right behind you, where you cannot see, there's a brand new generation of people with completely different priorities. And what they want to do is to spend money on something completely different. And this is what happens to trends. So people stop buying those albums. They stop buying into those characters from those shows. They stop investing into the merchandising. Young people, you may still want to do it, but you've already purchased the album. And what you're doing is you're re-listening to the album. You've already downloaded and bought the movie. You're not going to the cinema to watch a movie that you've seen 3 or 4 times or to reread a book. For many young people, the generation behind you, some of these things are outdated. Some of these things have no relevance into their lives and or their future. But for you, it's a memory of a wonderful time in your past. Just like, think of like if you go back to your old high school. If you go there, you may recognize some of the buildings, but what you'll see is they've updated things. So they may have like air conditioning where before all you had was windows. They may have different kinds of boards, technological boards that connect to their computers via Bluetooth, whereas you had a blackboard, you barely had a whiteboard, right? So they're connecting their computers to everything, playing videos, all kinds of things are happening, interactive multimedia, interconnectivity activities, students with laptops, teachers with laptops, are all interacting online and physically in the classroom. so the teacher can see what the students are doing. He can grade them, or there's an AI that grades their work, their online work, almost instantly. When it comes to digitized learning, it's really become quite advanced, right? And you cannot ask them now to go back to the past to where you remember. That style of learning, those trends are completely gone. The same is true if you go back to like a job that you used to do. You'll find that the way they do the job now is completely different to when you were there 5 years ago. Not only that, all those people are gone, the people that you remember. Sometimes you'll find that you go back to like your old high school and you find that you are now actually older than the teachers. Imagine that. Going back thinking that you're gonna like find a situation where the teachers are old and you are still the young kind of student kind of figure, right? You're gonna see some of your old teachers. Yes, they'll recognize you, but you're older, but they'll be much, much older. And you find out that none of those teachers are there. It's a whole new gang of teachers, and all of them look at you, former student, right? Because you think you're a former student when actually you are one of the parents of the students, and they'll think that you're here to pick up their kids. I mean, they'll think you're there to pick up one of your kids or something like that, right? Or like you're there for a meeting with the principal or something, to meet with one of the parents. What they won't think is that you're there to walk down memory lane, which you shouldn't be doing. The same is going to be true about your old friends, friends from college, friends from university. These people have now had 5, 10, 15, 20 years of life experience without you. You have no idea what life has done to them. And you're going to try and meet with them so you can relive the past. Like, you may go and meet a friend who you used to drink with and smoke with and party with, whatnot, just to find out that that person had lung cancer from too much smoking. And there you are trying to relive the past, and this guy can't do it. Or he had liver disease from too much drinking. Or any myriad of the problems that come from consuming too much alcohol. And there you are trying to participate with them in this particular way, right? So this is why empires fall, because the next generation of people just doesn't care. And then you outlive the usefulness of a trend. Sure, people, might still remember the good old days, but nobody's trying to uphold old trends. This is true also what you're seeing. Some people might say what you're seeing of the media industry, where there is a thing called old media that is really becoming unsustainable. It's too expensive to make. On the one hand, it's too expensive to make. It takes too long to produce, and then it's consumed in like a fraction of a second. You know, you take 2 years to make a movie that people are gonna watch in 2 hours. And then once they've watched it, they don't even like it. And then you ask yourself, why take so long to produce something so mediocre? It's a sign of evolution. Whereas people like the ancient one can produce 2 hours worth, an hour's worth at least of content with very, very little. And and I'm not saying that a million people are gonna watch my product. All I'm saying is I can create a product. If people aren't gonna watch, I can create an hour's worth of content that people will ignore in an hour. Whereas you take 2 years to create an hour's worth of content and people are still gonna ignore it. You see what I mean? So it's like your outcomes and what you're putting in just aren't matching. If every time you put something out, a million people watched it, then I would say, yeah, it would justify that type of effort and that type of investment, and search into talent and skill and so forth. But let's be honest, what some of these people are doing is actually quite basic. A child can do those things that the old me, and they do. You just tell a child what to say and they'll say it. You tell an adult what to say and they'll say it. It really doesn't require that much skill. So not only are you paying these people a tremendous amount of money to do something that is low skill, you're also taking years and years to produce it. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, you know. And this is why it's important for you to respond to the passage of time and transition out of outdated practices and old notions of what is appropriate and especially of what is cool. If you are one of those people who is surviving the end of empires, you need to be able to transition, right? This is really what we're talking about here. You need to be able to reinvent yourself in order for you to not just remain relevant, to remain appropriate, functional, and effective in your new era, in your new role, in your new position. Because you must remember that the next generation that comes in behind you, and they are right behind you, they are right behind you. So, like millennials, Gen Z is right there. Like Gen Z are now fully grown adults. The old Gen Z is now a fully grown adult, and the young Gen Z is now well into adolescence, right? And so they are right behind you, and the world, the economics is being geared to cater to their needs because they are the ones with the spending power. Now, you might say, well, I'm the one with spending power, but let's look at it realistically. At 50 years old, you probably have about 10 or 15 years worth of peak spending power, unless you have it made in a very particular way. But the next generation, if they're 20 years old, right, or two generations later, if they're 20 years old, they're looking at 45 years of just constant spending, decades of constant spending, whereas you are looking at maybe 15 years of constant savings because you know what's coming after. So, what you need to do is you need to create a set of circumstances where you are selling to the people who are going to be needing to be buying. You need to reinvent yourself and put yourself in an appropriate situation where you can be effective in the next generation. And and this extends to every aspect of your life, including dating and relationships, right? If 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 you have heard even one video on this platform, you've heard me say many, many times, you gotta freeze your sperm and you gotta get that vasectomy. This is the next step in dating. I believe this is the next step in not just male evolution, but in normal dating. And this is one of the best way for you to reinvent yourself. I also always say that change is not real unless it's permanent. And that's why reinventing yourself into a vasectomite is one of the best things, according to me, that you can do in order to reinvent yourself, right? So, the world is changing, and so are you, and you are aging. You cannot be dressing like a teenager, acting like a teenager, talking like a teenager when you are not a teenager, right? And if you are uncertain about the dating dynamic in the world, you need to take the right steps in order to protect yourself. And those right steps, of course, are going to include freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy. Now, you could do the three M's. I call this the three M's of the male sphere, right? You know, the male sphere. The three M's of the male sphere are money, muscles, and mental health, right? And, people will say, well, you want to reinvent yourself. You got to get your money up. You got to get your muscles. You got to go to the gym. You got to get your mental health. You got to get your mind right. And these three improvements are great, right? But I have demonstrated, I think, several times how all these can be easily undermined, and quite frankly, can prove not only to be dangerous, they can prove to be quite reckless. This advice can prove to be reckless because it leads you straight back into a situation where you end up in the dark dimension and bending the knee. So you'll have the money, you'll have the muscles, you'll have the mental health, and then what do? You go get a woman pregnant. Now there goes your money, there goes your muscles, and you can expect that mental health to go right down the drain. So the three M's of the male sphere are very, very useful, but they have their limit, right? They can easily be undermined compared to, of course, a vasectomy. Reinventing yourself shouldn't be something that can be undone by a bad day of work, which your money can be undone by a bad. You can go to work, have a bad day, and get fired, and there goes your money. Right now, you got to start a business with nothing, right? You could have a bad situation where you can't work out. Maybe it's winter, you can't go to the gym, you're snowed in, or whatever. It's summertime. Maybe that there are places in the summer where it's just way too hot, right? So you could be in places like where it's too humid to go running, and that kind of thing. And there go your muscles and your health. Sure, you can rebuild them later, but still there's a sacrifice in that. And one bad argument with a counterpart could ruin your mental health and send you into mental health problems, depression, right? And I know you're thinking, well, one argument won't do it. Well, it depends on what that argument is. Let's say you're arguing over, say, dishes. Maybe that argument won't do it. But let's say you're arguing over, say, the paternity of your child. Now that argument will send you into a tailspin. So yes, you are one argument away from a mental health crisis, right? So the three M's of the male sphere are easily debunked, right? Easily destroyed. Now, a vasectomy, good luck undoing that with an argument. Good luck undoing that with money, and good luck undoing that with your muscles. The only way to undo it is with a professional, and you're going to pay a lot, right? You're going to pay a lot. The word reinvent is the definition of it is not satisfying to me, and let me tell you why. It says reinvent is to change something so much that it appears to be entirely new. This appear is not the same thing as is. It looks new, but it is not. The three M's of the male sphere, the money, the muscles, and the mental health, you look different, you feel different, you act different, but you're not different. You are not different, right? And this is where I get the dissatisfaction. Whereas if you look at the transition of the vasectomite, all things being equal, you look the same, you act the same, you sound the same. For the most part, you're going to think the same and believe the same things. But you're not the same. You're not the same. You get a vasectomy, you are absolutely not the same. I assure you, you are a completely brand new man. And it's only a matter of time before you start to think like a vasectomite. So I'll give you an example. Like there might be a person that you are pursuing as a man, trying to get with them, trying to meet up with them, and they could be eluding you, right? And while they are eluding you during your pursuit of this person, you get a vasectomy, it's going to change everything. It is going to change everything. You'll just stop pursuing them, and they will instantly start pursuing you. I promise you, and you won't even explain to them why. Suddenly, you've got a secret, you've got something that you won't discuss, you know. It will be just like that. That's how a vasectomy is. And they won't know what is going on. You know, we've read so many articles, and we are going to read more, I assure you, about secret vasectomies and how they affect people. And they tend to affect them in exactly the same way. The man just changes in the most fundamental way, and then the woman starts to pursue. He doesn't change economically. He doesn't change socially. He doesn't change with muscles or money. She starts pursuing him. She starts wanting to have his kids. She starts wanting to procreate with him, and is being intimate in just the most with just the most fervor and vigor, right? Just the most vigorous way, more than the man could even handle. And not only that, she's not going out to be intimate with other people. She wants to be intimate with him. She wants his baby and his baby alone. With changing none of those things. No financial status, no change in behavior, no change in social status, didn't change your job, didn't change your house, didn't buy anything new. You just stopped caring, like in a genuine way. In a genuine way. You are brand new, but you look completely the same. And everybody can feel there's something different about you. They just know it, but they can't see it. Whereas in the other way, as a knee bender, the reinvention merely seems that you appear different. So you look different, you talk different, you got a new slang, whatever. You got a new outfit, a new wardrobe. You change your glasses, like Aaron Marino that you see on the screen, whose article we're going to be reading, by the way. That's why I have Aaron Marino here on the screen. He's actually a very talented writer, very underestimated writer. I haven't watched his content. I know he's got YouTube content, a lot of it, but I haven't really watched his content for a very long time. I have read his articles, and I do enjoy his writing, and we are gonna go through one of his articles together here in a moment. All right, but these changes, right? And this is why I have this picture here of Alpha M himself, right? You see, it's pretty much the same picture, and all he did was change the glasses, right? This is what reinventing yourself appears to me. It's like it's a very superficial, very cosmetic change at best, right? You look the part of change, you act the part of change, but you haven't actually really changed anything except an outfit. If you really think about it, you have not changed your biology, you have not changed your reproduction, you have not changed the course of time or the flow or the direction of history in any way, yours or anyone else's. It's just a cosmetic change. You look different, but you're not. But you're not. And one bad decision is going to expose that. One bad decision, you listen to me. You come out here with your new shades and your new haircut and your new cologne, and you go out there, the first thing you're going to do is get somebody pregnant. And all of that superficial reinvention of yourself goes right out the window. And there you are in the sand, on the sunset, with a band and a guy playing the piano on the beach, with your knees in the sand, getting wet, right? That's what they don't tell you about these proposals on the beach at sunset with the flowers and the big heart and the big sign that says, send me into the dark dimension with you, well, they don't actually say that. It says marry me, but it means the same thing. And there you are on your knees, your clothes are getting dirty, your pants are getting wet, the tide is coming in, you want to propose, before before the tide comes back in, and but you can't get up because you got to get the pictures, right? You got to get the moment. And now you've already asked the question, will you marry me? And this one says, yes, I'll put you in the dark dimension for the rest of your life. Right? She's already said yes. It took a split second for this to happen. But now you're still on your knees because you're waiting for the tide to come in. Right? So, you're trying to avoid the tide simultaneously, but you got to get the pictures. You got to get the video. The song is still playing. You can't get up. You can't get up while the song is still playing, so you gotta let the band finish playing the song. That's 3 minutes on your knees. And she said yes 2.5 minutes ago. Now she's gotta act surprised for 2 extra minutes. Imagine being surprised for an additional 2 minutes. Okay, eventually it's all done. Now you gotta get up and then you gotta give her a kiss. Right? And then now you gotta be kissing her there. Okay, thankfully the tide didn't come in. You didn't ruin your life and embarrass yourself while trying to do this buffoonery. Now you gotta be standing there kissing this person for 4 minutes. And then the band starts another song. Now you gotta kiss her until the song is finished. And all the while they're shooting the videos. And you're gonna be editing this 10-minute, 20-minute debacle into like a 30-second video. Just to get what? 142 likes. I hope it's worth it. But I think, this is what's going to happen to you. I hope this nonsense is worth it to you. Because if you think that you're going to reinvent yourself by buying a new outfit and changing, you are making a colossal mistake. You're going to look the part, but I'm telling you, you are one mistake away. You are one night away. You are one encounter away. If you have been intimate in the last 24 hours, put a counter on your phone and count down to 9 months. You need to count down to 9 months because that's how long you have left, right? That's how long you have left. Those are the number of days, roughly 274 days. That's how long you have left to get ready. If the last time you had intimacy was yesterday, and if you think reinventing yourself is really what's going to help you. So let's have a look at today's article from a very popular content creator, Aaron Marino. I wanted to say Alpha M because I'm used to saying Alpha M, but Mr. Aaron Marino is a content creator as well as a very talented and I think underrated writer, as I've mentioned. Out of respect, I'd like to call him Mr. Aaron Marino, or Mr. Marino, which is really my natural style and position. But I know him as Alpha M, and it's going to be very difficult to keep switching between Mr. Marino and Alpha M. But I'll try to be respectful with his likeness as well as his content. So here it is, the article by Mr. Aaron Marino, otherwise known as Alpha M, How to Reinvent Yourself as an Adult Man, 30-day plan. I believe that this advice is for men under a certain age, but I think it's useful for men of all kinds. I know that his content is really geared to men of all kinds, but really there is a specific target audience, and I think it's men under 40 or men under 35. I don't think he's talking about content that is directed at men in their 60s, late 50s, unless those men are rebuilding their lives for the final stage, especially of their careers, or to extend their careers in some way. But I having listened to his content, I have not listened for some time, but having listened to his content, I got the impression that he was talking to a working man, an ambitious man, and a man who believed he still had time to achieve his dreams and his goals. Mr. Marino writes, you can reinvent yourself at any age. This is true. So, who do you want to be? I reinvented myself at 30 when I decided it was time to change. Until then, I was a fitness dude, bodybuilder, personal trainer, and gym owner. This is all I considered myself to be and what other people had viewed me as. He says this like it's not something, like it's not an achievement, right? He says, I was a fitness dude, how many people are unfit? A bodybuilder. You know how many people will struggle to achieve bodybuilder status? In terms of fitness, you're not going to be a bodybuilder, man. A personal trainer, a qualified personal trainer is a very educated, experienced person. They don't just come in there and make you hit weights. They actually have a plan. And he owned a gym, so he was also an entrepreneur and a business owner. These are not small accomplishments. And he did all this by 30, right? So you understand you're dealing with a person who already has a certain type of mindset and motivation. For him to then say, well, this is all there is, I want more, is an indication of an ambitious person. So what he's demonstrating here is he had an empire. This is the point that I was trying to make. This is an indication of an empire, a business, knowledge base, customer base, and a track record of your own, right? And as I said, empires end because the people that are running them, they just don't want to run them anymore. And here he is at 30, walking away from an empire, desiring more. Should the barbarian come into that gym and say, I'm taking over, what he's going to find is that Aaron Marino is already gone. And taking over that gym is going to be relatively simple because the person who was running it and holding it down and keeping that barbarian at bay just isn't there anymore. And now it's the barbarian's job to go and find customers. And the barbarian is not going to want to do that business. He says, at 30 years old, I decided it was time for something different. I wanted to be an image consultant and start my new life. See, now he's going into a new era in a completely different direction. So he's gone from fitness, training, bodybuilding, gymming, to not even the opposite, to just something completely unrelated. Completely unrelated. You see how empires end and how the transition, like his priorities are now of a completely different nature. The last thing he wants to do is sit and do admin work for a gym for 3 hours at the end of the day before going home and then starting his own workout. By the way, that's how it goes. You run that gym all day for 12 hours, and then at the end of that 12 hours, only then you get to work out. They don't tell you that part. They don't tell you that part of business, right? So he's on to his new life. Realize that you are not too old. Some of you are too old. If you're alive, you're not too old. You can do it, change it, and become the man you want to become. Okay, let's talk about this age issue for a moment. There's no business on this earth where you are too old to enter into. If there's a product that can be sold, yes, there are businesses that are predominantly directed for and targeted at young people, and that's because they have the money and the energy to consume that business. Partying, nightlife, entertainment for that kind of reason for example, I beg your pardon, is directed at young people because they have the energy and the time to consume it. They don't make nightclubs for 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds because you have bills and responsibilities. You're not going to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning talking about how cool the last 4 hours were. No. You're going to actually just be waking up at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to start your day. So it's a completely different thing, right? But there's absolutely no reason why you cannot be a 40, 50-year-old club owner, club promoter, running the business, doing that, right? Some things you are too old for, but in terms of business, I will say there's no business where you're too old for, right? Yeah. If you start your pilot's license at say 35, and let's say you qualify, I don't know how long it takes, but let's say it's 5 years, you're ready to go, you're ready to fly. Nobody is ever gonna know. No one is ever gonna know that 5 years ago you were not a pilot. People will just assume that you've always been a pilot. That's one of the benefits of reinventing yourself. When people see you as you are, they just assume this is who you've always been, right? This is something that I meant to talk about earlier on, right? When you move, one of the best ways to reinvent yourself is just to move somewhere else. And remember, when you move to a new place, nobody knows who you are. So I had no idea that Mr. Marino was any of these things. I had no idea that he was accomplished as a bodybuilder, a personal trainer, and a gym owner at all. I always assumed, because I only knew him in a particular way, that this is how it's always been. I assumed, yes, there was a past, blah, blah, blah. We all have a past, but I would never have guessed that this was his past, right? Unless you know, of course, unless you're interested to look up. But when you move to another place, that's the best way of reinventing yourself. That's how I do it. I mean, there's a vasectomy and we're promoting that. But the other best way is just to move. Go to another city. Nobody knows. Go to a different part of the same city. Nobody knows anything about you. Change companies, move to a different company. Nobody will know nothing about you. You can be the person who you want to be in a new environment, right? It's the best way of one of the best ways of reinventing yourself, other than getting that vasectomy, right? So, where did I leave? I think I lost my place. Oh yes, I was talking about people are too old. It says that being said, I went to discuss the Alpha M reinvention plan. That's the Alpha M reinvention plan, AMRP. It's a comprehensive process that involves analysis of who you are and where you want to go, developing new skills, changing who you've known yourselves to be, and relying to others who, oh, sorry, it's not relying, it's relaying to others who you want to become. The process also determines where you're going. He's actually a very good writer, by the way. He's actually a very good writer. I find this introduction to not only be informative but also engaging, and it lays down a platform, a very nice platform demonstrating the transition from one area and field into another. And now, knowing how I know him as a social media content creator, never met him in person, but I'm aware of him as a social media content creator. This indicates to me yet another level of evolution from where he's came from. So he's changed and then changed again. So he's not only reinvented himself, but he's reinvented himself and he continues to do so, right? There is no limit to what you can reinvent, and also no limit to where you can go, right? If you've had like a terrible experience in one company, you can go to another company and find that not only can you make improvements on yourself and be more kinder, more generous, more patient, like the butler that I described, you have an opportunity to make new first impressions, right? You can show people, like, you know what, this is the best of me. And those people, that was a different environment, and that environment brought out different things in me. This environment brings out the best of me, and I want you to not only have, but also to enjoy that. So here they are. So here it is, rather. The Alpha M reinvention plan steps to reinventing yourselves at any age. The first step: perform a self-assessment. You know, he is so good, by the way. He's just underrated. These words are meaningful to me. Know thyself. I say always, know thyself. Know yourself as you really are, not as you want to be, and not the person you want to live up to others. Know the real you, the gritty, the ugly, the good. Even if there's just a little bit of good and you're just filled with trash inside, it is better for you to be aware of that trash that is within you. We all have it, but be aware of it, don't deny it. Know thyself. It is only through self knowledge that you can begin the steps to true ultimate victory. Self control is your only power, and you can only have true self control if you know thyself. And Mr. Marino begins with that principle right here. He uses different words, but I would have said the same philosophy here. He says, you need to be honest with who you are. I mean, really, right? I just said that. Let me not interrupt him. With who you are and your current situation. What are you happy with in your life? What aren't you happy with? Plain and simple. Know thyself. Look at your situation honestly, especially those numbers. Don't lie about your economic numbers. Look at the numbers for what they are and realize you got to change those numbers. Get on that scale and look at the numbers. Don't look in the mirror. I don't even tolerate the mirror in terms of health and fitness. The only true measure, the only standard of my health and fitness is the scale. Nothing else, not even the 10K, right? Because I know myself, I want to lose weight, I want to look good. The only measure of finances that I will accept are savings. Let me see your savings. Are your savings growing? Do you have savings? You have savings? Okay. I don't consider investments as an indication of success, because your indications could be worth 100 million today and they could be worth 20 million tomorrow. That means absolutely nothing. You could be investing in a company that's committing fraud and you won't even know it. But your savings are true. So the scale is true, the number you see on the scale is true, and the number you see in your savings is also true. Know yourself as you really are, and only then can we truly begin to make the changes that we need to reinvent, and then also get a vasectomy, right? Freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Yeah, that'll help a lot. Assess your strengths, he says. What are you great at? What do you love? What are you passionate about? What have other people told you that you're good at doing? Determine your non negotiables related to your core values, which will help you to stay on course. You need to know what you're good at and what you're not. You need to know what people will pay you for and what people won't. So I believe that when he transitioned into what did he call this thing that he used to do? Image consultant, right? There was no way I was going to remember that. That's not in my daily vocabulary, image consulting. It's a word that I really never, a combination of words that I actually never use, image consulting. I don't even know if that means anything. But anyway, when he transitioned from image consulting, from the health industry to image consulting, I believe that he believed that he was going to be successful in terms of making money, right? And also, there's a possibility that he wasn't really doing as well as he thought he'd be doing in one industry. So then he pivoted to be in a better situation, right? But I think he knew where he was going and what he wanted to do. And he knew, or at least he believed, that he'd be good at it. But I think there's a certain point in your life where you know what you're good at and what people will pay you to do. So then there are things that you like to do for fun and you want to be known for this. So you want to be known as a cool, fun loving, relaxed, cheerful guy. But you're actually very good at. And then people will listen to you because you are actually very good at upholding the rule of law. But you want to be known as a fun loving guy, then you need to let go of that fun loving guy personality. And you need to be a guy that actually upholds the rule of law. You need to transition out of that and be this person. For the reason that one, you're very good at it, and two, you get paid for it, right? And what you need to do is just change your mindset into focusing on what you're good at. I think a lot of people lose out on great opportunities because they hold on to who they think they are and who they think they want to be, when what they really want to be is to be successful. But you want to be successful and be liked at the same time, and that doesn't always go together, right? You could be a very, very good general, but you're too busy being a clown. This is what I'm talking about. And while you may like telling jokes and be very, very good at it, you're actually a brilliant general. And the world needs generals and not clowns, right? So you need to find out, what are you good at and what are you great at and what are you passionate about in the job. In the job that you're doing, find something that you are passionate about in the job and say, you know what, I enjoy this and I will do all these other things well, but I know that this is my point of joy. This is my point of success. I get to win. I get to be competitive. I get to dominate. I get power. I get authority. I get responsibility. And I get paid at the end of the month. That is sufficient, right? That is sufficient. But you really need to know at a certain point, what are you good at? And you need to hold on to that until, of course, you can find something better that will make more money. But that thing has to be real. Then you can transition on to that. So he also transitioned from image consulting and then moved on to social media, which I think was a better move for him. And perhaps it was, perhaps it wasn't. I would never know, right? But he made that transition, and he landed somewhere solid. I, on the other hand, am not expecting to make any money off social media. So I'm doing this because I want to talk about something that I'm passionate about: freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. But I also know that if I want to be successful, I need to do the thing for which I'm good at. And I know that the thing for which I'm good at is the thing for which I get paid the money. And I don't think I'll get paid any money here. If I start to make so much money of social media that it is redundant for me to continue doing the job for which not only I get paid not only do I get remunerated well for, in terms of my standards, but I'm also fairly good at it. It would be very difficult to forego that situation and those advantages to go and try something that is completely untested. Number three is visualize the person you want to become. Often this is challenging because we feel like we are what we are or what we've been, right? So we are what we are, or we are what we've been. Let go of the perception of who you used to be. Also, understand that a lot of people aren't going to get it at first, and they'll still view you as the same person they perceived you to be. So, this for me comes back to the point where I said that most reinventions of self are very superficial. So it's really a change of an outfit, a change of personality, if that thing is even possible, even a change of work and that kind of thing. But eventually, there are some people that are still going to see you as you are. And there are parts of you that may even see yourself as you used to be. That's why I advocate as a vasectomy, freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy being an important part of that reinvention. Number one, that it's going to be permanent. And number two, you will not only get to visualize who you want to become, but you can actually create that without having, to worry about the consequences of having bad decisions one night. Right? But yes, you need to visualize the person you want to become so that it gives you a goal, so that it gives you something to go for and something to aim at, and a position where you want to say, this is where I want to land. This is where I want to be in X amount of time. This is the job that I want to do. This is how I want to live. And then proceed to see what it takes to achieve those things, and then knock down those activities and go ahead and achieve. But freeze your sperm, getting a vasectomy is definitely, in my opinion, should definitely be an important part of that reinvention and that transition. Mr. Aaron Marino, aka Alpha M, says number four is set measurable goals. I like that very much. Only you can set these, but you must be honest with yourself. Yes, you have your North Star, but you need to have these small steps in between that are measurable and move you forward. Absolutely. This is for many reasons, right? I'm a detailed oriented person. And I think the details are very important because the details will outline the steps and the challenge, the true challenge that waits in front of you in terms of your transition. But measurable goals are absolutely critical. So if you want to lose weight, you need a scale. You need a scale. And I don't have a specific weight to say I did. I said I wanted to achieve this goal, and then I achieved that goal. And from now on, the goal is to weigh less. So if I weigh, I'm just gonna give a random number, 100 kilograms. I don't weigh 100 kilograms. I weigh far less than 100 kilograms. But if I weighed 100 kilograms and it was my goal to go from say 120 kilograms to 100 kilograms, now that I've achieved 100 kilograms, I want to go to 99, and then 98, and then 97. So I had achieved my 100 kilograms. It wasn't 100 kilograms, but hypothetically speaking. And so I went to 99 and then 98. So now I'm at the point where every day I want to wake up and see that scale go down. If it goes up, that's a problem. So if I'm at 98 and I go up to 98.8, 98.5, 98.9, that's a problem. I need to be at 97.9 to indicate success. And yes, I weigh myself down to the gram, right? Because sometimes those successes are incremental. Sometimes those successes are really 1 gram at a time. You run 10 kilometers for 2 weeks and drop 1 gram. And I've been there and thought, like, I've had the same weight for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks just on the same weight. And after 2 weeks, I drop a gram. But I know it's a permanent gram. I'm so grateful for that gram because it doesn't indicate that I've had a tremendous improvement. It just keeps indicating to me that I'm moving in the right direction, right? I keep I'm still improving. Even though I think I look great, I feel great. I'm at the weight that the other day I had to go buy a new set of outfits. In fact, a whole new set of clothes. It wasn't just like an outfit. I had to replace almost every item of clothing because I'd lost so much weight. The pants just weren't comfortable anymore. The shirts weren't comfortable anymore. I had to really let go of everything to buy things that fit. So I know that I don't want to go up, not even 1 gram. So my new standard is down. The same is true with my finances. I cannot rely on unreliable measures for financial stability and success. I can't look at spending because some months I spend more than others, right? I can't look at investments because some investments go up, they go down, right? I have to say what is something that can be controllable, that can be sustainable and measurable over time. The only thing that's there is savings. So you make sure, okay, I saved. Currently, you can say I have $10,000 of savings in my bank account. Next month, when I look again, it needs to be 11,000. The next month, it could be 11,500, but this is an indication that that number is moving up. Even if you put in $1 in there, 11,501, that $1 is an indication of an upward tick. And when you have savings and you follow the savings principle in economics, it doesn't matter when that number goes up. So that number can stay the same for 2 months, right? And then on the third month, it goes up $10. And then it stays the same for another month, and then it goes up again by another $100. As long as it goes up, you are winning. And you can control that. You can control that number for decades and have it ticking up by a small amount. And that is an indication, right? Like losing a gram of weight is to me the same as gaining $1 in savings because I'm telling you that dollar's not going anywhere. And those grams are never coming back as long as I maintain my system of running. Eliminate bad habits is number 5. Take better care of yourself, a critical component of the reinvention process. Be the best version of yourself, which includes being in good shape, not binge drinking or using drugs and illicit substances. I tell you all the time about that liquor and those illicit substances. Now, fortunately, I don't have a problem with either, but you're gonna go to jail, man. Not only the health issues if you keep being involved with alcohol and illicit substances. Alcohol, there's only a matter of time before things get out of hand, before you drink too much or somebody else drinks too much, right? But illicit substances, no matter how you look at it, you know what I mean? If you have them, that's possession. If you give them away, that's trading. That's selling. No matter what you do with illicit substances. And there's a law for it. There's a law for everything. But yeah, you gotta let go of bad habits if you have them. And not hanging out with people who hold you back. Oh, yes, that's even worse. Hanging out with people, period. Listen to me. You gotta let go of people, man. All of them. Anybody that you engage with in an uncontrolled environment is a threat. The people you engage with at work are less of a threat, but they're still dangerous. But they're less of a threat because they are in a controlled and safe environment, an environment where they need to act right in order to survive. They need the money, they got bills, they got kids. You can be safe in a work environment. But outside of work, people can be whatever they want to be. They could say what they could be cracking, jokes. I'm not a big fan of jokes, but there are jokes that have like sexual innuendo to them, and you crack those jokes outside of work. You think you're being funny. Inside of work, you would never say anything like that. But then you have, you're saying these things with your colleagues. And then they got to take that joke that you said in bad taste and bring it into work the next day. And it just doesn't, sit well. It just doesn't sit well. So, don't, even your colleagues will be people that hold you back. But hanging out with anyone is a problem. And they're gonna say, "Well, choose the right people." How do you know? How do you know if you're with the right person and they turn into the bad person? How do you know you're with a person who's all about health and they'll date a girl who introduces them to illicit substances and drugs? And now they are on a downward spiral that you may know nothing about. How do you know that on the one day that person is good and then the next day they are completely something else? Or if they were that way the whole time and they were just pretending you didn't know, you would have no idea. People are not going to help you uphold your values and your standards. You need to uphold those by yourself. All people, not some people, not special people, not people from this part of the world. All people are in it for themselves, and you need to be too. You need to stop being desperate for people to like you, because eventually you're going to ask the wrong people to like you, and they're going to make you do all kinds of things to win their approval. Breaking the law, drinking alcohol, consuming illicit substances, knowing that you're risking jail, among other things like addiction, bad habits, intimacy with unscrupulous counterparts who you know you might be catching something. Like, the reason to hang out with people is minimal. When you're young, sure, whatever, who cares, right? I wasn't that kind of person anyway, even in my youth. But as you grow older, you just need to understand that people are a bad problem, right? All of them, all of them. Stop trying to pick one from the other. You're probably gonna pick wrong anyway. When you do these, your confidence will grow and every aspect of your life will improve. Yes, as soon as you cut people out of your life improves immediately. Immediately. You've seen people commit the most atrocious crimes, and everybody that comes out will say this is the last thing we imagined. Oh, we never thought the ancient one would do anything like this. Oh, the ancient one at work, he's such a darling, such a sweetheart, so helpful. We never thought he would do anything like this. That's because the ancient one's been lying to you for years and years and years, and you have no idea who he really is. Right? You have no idea who these people really are. And they could do it for years and years and years, and here you are trusting them. And as soon as you stop trusting every single person and be paranoid about every single person, your life will improve. Of this, I can guarantee you. Why take the risk, man? Why take the risk to find out? All right? He continues to say you will build your positive habits and that will impact the rest of your life. Let me tell you how I think building positive habits can be. And by the way, each one of these can be a whole video by itself. Like, I could do a whole video just on building positive habits. You can do a whole video of how to set measurable goals, the different steps of doing that. Like, all this is just gold, by the way, in terms of content, right? How to present your better self. Like, you could do a whole video just on that. But how would I suggest you build positive habits? Firstly, you need to cut out everyone and everything, and then start from nothing. So start by putting on underwear. You know, okay, I need underwear. Then socks, okay, I need to have socks in my life. Then trousers, okay, I need trousers in my life. Then a shirt, then a t-shirt or whatever, okay, I need that. A jersey, a jacket, a sweater, you need that. A hat, you need that. Then what? You need a place to stay, you need a place to sit, you need a place to sleep, you need something to eat, you need something to keep the food in, you need something to make the tea, the coffee. That you build from nothing. You stand there in the nude and you start putting on the things onto yourself, onto your body that you actually need. And what you will see is that you will sooner stop than proceed. Eventually, you get to a place where you say, okay, I've been doing this for 10 minutes and it's taken me 10 minutes to have everything that I need. Anything outside of this 10 minutes means absolutely nothing. So, in that 10 minutes, you'll discern you need a place to stay, you need a car to go to work and return, you need a place to go buy your clothes, your food, whatever the things you need to survive. And soon that list stops. Then what you start to realize are the things that you want, right? I want a better car, I want a bigger apartment, I want a bigger TV. These then start to be things that are not necessary, right? And what you will find is that all your bad habits exist outside of your necessities. So, for instance, water is a necessity while alcohol is a want. And you like again you'll see is that all your like exercise is a necessity, but binge eating ice cream and binge watching shows is a want, right? So you'll discover very soon that your good habits are within your necessities and your bad habits are outside of those necessities and into your desires. Develop new skills? Yes, absolutely. This is part of the self exploration process. Identify gaps or weaknesses you are deficient in and become the person you envision yourself to be by obtaining the new skills. Build your skill set and your knowledge base. Yes, this is true. If you want to improve, like he went from gym owner, entrepreneur to a different business, but he was already a businessman. Remember that. So when he just moved to another kind of business, he already had business skill. He probably already had clients. So what he had probably was he found, now that it's making sense to me in my own experience, as a person who has been exercising and is losing weight, this is now also him. So I'm imagining that he's my personal trainer. Aaron Marino is my personal trainer. And now I'm losing a tremendous amount of weight exercising with him. And so are all of his other clients. And then he gets the idea, he realizes, wait a minute, my clients aren't fitting into the clothes that they used to wear anymore because of the fitness goals, right? I can cater to them as an image consultant and say, hey, you know, those clothes are too big for you, man. And they don't actually look good. I might know a style that could suit you, right? So he had, I believe, an interest to learn new skills, image consulting, but he already had a business, he already had an idea, an inclination, a target market. He knew where to get the customers, and then to grow from that to social media, to me seems like the next logical step. To say, you know what, if I can do this for 20, 30 people at a time, I can do this for 1 million people online. And so he did, right? But he went and developed new skills all along the way, from learning how to run a business initially, to then adapting to business skills, to business acumen, to information, to lingo, to jargon, tax rules of a new business, and then move on to a new platform. This is adaptability, right? This is adaptability. This is what reinventing yourself is all about, right? When he realized that he had reached the limit, or the phase, or the era, or the empire of gym had come to an end, right? The gym is still there, but the people that were running it have moved on. The barbarians have moved in and they're doing whatever they want, and now their barbarians need to do the admin. But he has now moved on to a new place that requires new skill, right? And so must you. And when you freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, what you will discover is that in the vasectomy knife, there's a whole new level of skill, a whole new line of skill that you have to learn. One of which is the deceptive arts, because you cannot be telling nobody about your vasectomy. If you think that getting a vasectomy and not studying the art of war, not studying the deceptive arts is an option, I'm here to tell you it's not. Because what you will do is you'll think that this is a vasectomy is a casual conversation because you and the ancient one be discussing it every single day, but you tell one person in the real world and you're gonna find out exactly why I've been telling you to keep this thing to yourself, right? You're gonna have to develop new skills with the new level that you're moving on, just like Mr. Aaron Marino of Alpha M fame did here. Number seven, present yourself better. Dress for the man who you want to become or the role that you want to have. Don't wear sloppy clothes or be a hot grooming mess. Adapt Adopt a better, I beg your pardon, adopt a better style and have the incredible grooming routine. Present a great package that is consistent with the way that you want to be perceived. Half the work is already done at this point, and you won't need to open your mouth because people will automatically assume you are what you perceive yourself to be. Very insightful stuff, very layered too, right? This isn't just like one level of self perception and self care and self love. It's very layered and detailed for how short it is. He's a very good writer. It's clear to me he's a very educated and skilled man. He's obviously written academic essays before. This is a very skilled hand playing an instrument that he's very familiar with. But yes, so I'm always talking about getting healthy, getting fit, so you can show the best part of yourself. There's styles that you can dress up and play the part, if you will. You want to be taken seriously as a policeman, you gotta dress like a policeman, right? And so forth. But I'm talking about the inner change, the vasectomy, right? And honestly, I'm not sure if a vasectomy will help you present your best self. We have to come to accept that there are going to be good vasectomites, and then there are going to be vasectomites that are just going to be scandalous. I can already foresee that. But either way, what you want to be seen as is the best version of yourself. And I'm gonna make just one statement about this. Your best fashion statement. This is a statement, a quote from Coco Chanel, by the way. Let me give credit to where it's due. Coco Chanel set the standard for fashion, in my opinion. She said that the best fashion statement that you could ever make is a great body. Doesn't matter what you wear, man. If you are out of shape in whatever you're wearing, forget about it. And to me, that's my fashion statement. I want to wear clothes that look good for the body that I'm in, right? And I want my body to be good. So I'm going to make sure my body is good first, then I'm going to dress to impress. Now, also, I mean, you could dress appropriately for work and then dress up after work or dress down based on your circumstances. So, dress code is not really a priority for me, other than to say that the best fashion statement to me is always going to be a great body, right? It's always, I'm not going to be looking at what brand you're wearing. If your body's out of shape, I don't care how expensive your belt is, right? Get your body in shape, and then let's see if you care about how expensive that belt is. People who spend a tremendous amount of time in the gym getting their body right to look good have a right, I believe, to dress well. But ironically, I find that people who spend a lot of time in the gym spend a lot of time in gym wear. So fashion really comes secondary. Really, really, it's like it's really not the priority. I'm really like when I buy shoes, I'm worried about are they gonna hurt my feet for when I run later. So I'd rather wear shoes that don't really look so good, but they're gonna make me comfortable so that later when I start running, my feet aren't aching and they aren't tired, right? That's my standard, man. My fashion statement, my fashion standard is the scale, right? The scale will tell me how fashionable I am, not some brand manager. And the last one is execute. Yes. Oh, this list is absolutely everything, man. This list is absolutely, and I'm not saying it to be like a fan or anything. I'm critical with everybody's writing. And there's things here where I haven't disagreed, when I haven't agreed with. There's things where I have a different take or a nuanced perspective. But for the most part, I think he's really brought this article home. I think he's really brought this article home. And number 8 is really something that I talk about all the time. Action is the only power that can change reality. Once you have all the things that you figured out, you gotta take action, action, action. So you plan, you strategize, you meditate on the issues deeply, and then ultimately it comes down to action. We can talk about the vasectomy all day long. I already got mine, by the way, but the choice is yours. How are you going to reinvent yourself? What is the action that you're going to take after you've got the 3 M's? The money, the muscles, and the mental health. What's the next step? You're going to go back into the romance wars? Or you're going to go get your vasectomy? You're going to freeze that sperm and get a vasectomy. Aaron Marino says many people envision themselves as what they would love to be, but are not because they fail to execute. Yes, adopt a growth mindset and embrace personal development. You must shut out the noise of past failures, preconceived notions of who you were yesterday, and what others perceive you to be. Powerful words. When you can block out the noise and focus on executing the plan, you will build yourself into the man that you envision yourself to be. This is where the magic happens, and when you become a better man. A magnificent, magnificent article that I, for one, quite frankly, enjoyed reading. Yes, right there at the end, he finishes off with the most important thing. Eventually, when he says here, you must shut out the noise of past failures and preconceived notions of who you were yesterday. Remember what I said, that when you go to a new environment, when you've changed yourself and you've changed your dynamic, you change your mental health, wherever you go into, it's gonna be a new environment. So when you go into that new environment, nobody knows who you are, what you've been through, what you struggled with, what arguments you had, what battles you won and what you lost. Nobody knows none of that. All they know is who you are now and what you're going to say. And based on what you say in this moment, that will determine the interactions moving forward. And you can control that with your actions and your thoughts. But one of the things that comes with that is that you gotta block out the noise of the past. You gotta forget, I used to wear baggy jeans, forget all that. Nobody knows that you used to wear baggy jeans or your hat backwards. Nobody knows unless you show them and tell them. You can delete your entire social media profile. Just delete everything that you don't like and then start putting pictures of yourself in exotic, beautiful places. And there are people who will look at that and think that that's how it's always been, right? Because they will believe what they see right now. And the only results that you're ever going to get in this life, I assure you, are going to be from the actions that you take. So you absolutely got to take the right actions and see yourself moving in the right place so that you can end up where you are. One of the things that you have to accept is that time is always moving. So there's no going back. You're not going to be in the past. You're not going to be young forever. What you are going to be is eventually a full grown adult. And you're going to have to accept that and act the part and embrace that and move in those ways and execute accordingly. But yes, this has been a tremendous article, one that I enjoyed very much, and I agree with it. Please feel free to go over to Alpha M on YouTube. I'm sure you'll be able to find it with more simplicity than trying to look up Aaron Marino. But I'm sure if you look up both, eventually you will come to the same person and the same platform. Yes, a tremendous article that I really enjoyed reading. And I agree with every step in here, right? The only thing that he left out was to say freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. If he had said that, he would have probably had the best article so far in terms of self improvement and progress. But yes, again, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, guys. This is not a joke. It's not just something that I say as a slogan or a philosophy. It is a call to action. Execute. Get yourself a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm so you have all your options. That will dissuade any doubt, right? And then once you get your vasectomy, you can be free to execute with absolute confidence, and then you can take your vision to the next height and keep improving, knowing that you are not going to have any of the obstacles, or at least the traditional obstacles that bring successful men down. This is the end of the video, and as usual, I would like you to like the video. If you've liked the video, it's better than unliking the video. That word is still so unnatural to me. I cannot ask for a like. Yes, I like the likes, right? I like the approval. But it's the word like it's itself, right? Like, couldn't we ask for something else, a check mark? You know, I'm not sure what they could have done. I'm really not sure what they could have done. It's just not the manly thing to say. It's just not the manly thing to say, right? Can you imagine, Achilles before the going into war in Troy, saying at the end of this we will receive likes? It is really not the thing for men to say, right? Or imagine Marcus Aurelius leading his legions into war and saying, before we go in, can you like my strategy? No. It's just not the thing, man. It's just not the thing. And yet here we are. We live in a world of likes. And I would appreciate your like. I'd also appreciate it if you shared the video, but only with people that you think would be interested in the content. I'm really not one to receive too much criticism, especially because I like to think that I've done a fair bit of research into this information and I'm sound. But I would happily accept a challenge to my philosophy. If there's somebody who thinks that they have a better philosophy than freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy in terms of male social interactions, I would happily hear your take on your philosophy, and let's see how many people get pregnant through your philosophy. I assure you that if you follow my philosophy, 0 people will get pregnant, right? And yes, it's my philosophy. I invented it. I'm claiming it. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. This is not from Sun Tzu or anybody else. You haven't heard nobody else say it. It's my philosophy. It's the philosophy of the ancient one. You can go freeze your sperm, nobody's gonna care. You can go get a vasectomy, I'll care, but not as much. But if you do both, if you freeze your sperm and you get a vasectomy, you gotta say where you got that from. You cannot say I heard that on social media, because you didn't. Because you didn't. And I've scoured every inch of the internet. Even AI is not going to give you this answer. Only the ancient one. So, yes, it's my philosophy and I'm claiming it, and I'm not letting anybody else have it. Most of the other philosophies that I discuss, I'm happy to give credit. I'll tell you exactly where it came from. Here I am talking about a 2,000-year-old philosophy that I think is magnificent, and I've never claimed it. And I never will. It's not mine. I'm claiming my own philosophy. Freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Oh, yes, while I'm at it, please leave a comment if you are so inclined. If you want to, discuss or share an opinion, I will read all of them. And I will make the time to do so with diligence. Again, thank you for your time and your attention. I appreciate it, and I always will. Really, I know I say it in every video, but I really, really do. Every time I see, every time I see a view on my videos, it means something to me, right? Even if you disagree, it matters to me, right? I'd love to hear your disagreement, and then see you go get somebody pregnant, and let's see how far that disagreement will go. But yes, please leave a comment in order to remain part of the conversation, and I will always respond swiftly if I can. My final message, other than to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, is protect yourself at all times. Keep yourself safe. Stay away from dark places, loud places, dangerous places. If you cannot see and you cannot hear and you cannot anticipate the movements of people, then you cannot protect yourself. Stay away from these places, but force your enemies into them. Right? Protect your solitude, protect your peace of mind, protect your home. Make sure you live in a home all by yourself. Don't share your house with no one. Right? And protect your peace of mind. Protect your seed, protect your solitude, protect yourself. Thank you again for your time. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and I'd like to wish you a lovely, lovely day.